Opening slide, graphic text title, Families Leading Change, Home, with images of Anita O'Brien, Fiona Reed, Graham Pate, Jane Raymond, Maggie Skinner, Justine Hall. Logos belonging mattersandtalksthatmatter.net. Graphic text. Often the only alternative imagined for people with developmental disabilities when they leave their family home is group home living. Graphic text. We interviewed families who hold a vision for their son or daughter to live and thrive in their own home.
So my son Brody, he's 30 years old and he lives by himself in his own apartment.
Alex lives in his own apartment and he's been in this apartment for 18 months. He was renting an apartment for 4 years before that, and he's got a really good housemate living with him at the moment.
Cameron is a 47-year-old man who lives in a rural town, lives in his own home, or it's rented, and he's been doing that for 20 years.
Our daughter Diane is 39 years old. She's wanted to live outside of her home and is home with her parents since she was 25, just like her brothers did.
My daughter Emily is 40. She wanted to live as a typical 40-year-old in her own home, and she's living in a 2-bedroom unit by herself and her dog Presley, which she bought recently as a companion.
So Mike is my brother. He's 42, lives in his own home in the outer east of Melbourne. It's a 3-bedroom home, and Mike loves calling it his home.
Warren lives in his own home in the eastern suburbs. It's a 2-bedroom unit, and it's in the area that he grew up in.
So, like most people, Brody really wanted to move out of home and gain some freedom and taste of being his own man, and that was the main reason he wanted to move out.
We thought about it and we said, well, we need to do it because as parents we're not going to be around all the time to look after him.
The catalyst for Diane in wanting to move out of our house was that she wanted to be like her brothers and she wanted to live independently.
Like any typical 40-year-old, she wanted to live in her own space and have a home of her own. She was sick of living with her family.
Mike wanted to move into his own home because when he was younger, he lived in a group home for a very short time with other people with disabilities and didn't have a good experience. My parents realised that there were other options and that was not the only choice, and so went down the avenue of exploring with different circles of support and people around Mike, and came up with the idea that Mike could live independently, supported by housemates.
We wanted Cameron to be in an area that we felt was safe, a nice area, whether it was a house or a unit. It needed to be close to shops and facilities for him.
The key things we needed then to think about was how was Warren going to be supported without us returning to doing all the care. So we had to get a vision for him, exactly what was his life going to look like, whether it's home or community or whatever, because he left the day centre as well as a group home. So that vision was really important. And the other thing that was important that we thought about was joining a group of like-minded parents, and that's made all the difference to us.
So who does Mike live with? He lives with 3 flatmates. We're just looking for regular people from flatmate finders, and each of these housemates provide a little bit of support in the mornings and evenings, a couple of mornings and a couple of evenings each per week, and that enables Mike to live independently in his own home.
Initially, Diane lived with flatmates, but now she lives on her own.
Cameron lived with a housemate for several years, but he hasn't for the last 4 or 5 years. He's chosen to live on his own.
In the past, Emily has lived with housemates who provided support and companionship for reduced rent. At the present, she is living on her own and has chosen to do so as she likes her own space.
So some of Brodie's supports include some paid support to help with cleaning and washing and cooking and those regular chores, and also a lot of unpaid support, including friends, neighbours and circle.
The supports Emily has to live in her own home is a circle of support, which helps her work through any issues that she might have, her family, who she calls on regularly, and her support workers.
Since living in his own home, I think Warren has become more and more confident. This is his place. He welcomes people in. He takes charge of all that. And he's very proud, I think, to be in his own home and very happy to be in his own home. Doesn't particularly want to come and live with mum and dad anymore.
When he gets new housemates and gets to know new people, he talks more as well, and that's a big thing for Mike.
It's really that aspect of him wanting and being able to do his own thing, how he wants to, rather than having to keep an eye on mum and dad as he walks in and out of the house.
Well, she became much more independent. She also began to socialise more, and there's less reliance on ourselves. It was really good for her, and it was good for us.
Emily's independence has skyrocketed. She has really taken on board supported decision making and lets people know what she wants. And she's flourished, just being able to live on her own and become her independent woman.
Group homes have very different dimensions to them, and people don't get the choice of who they live with. And so I think there can be major problems with personalities, needs, support requirements, and it doesn't suit everybody.
Mike's experience of living in a group home was there was someone who was violent and he didn't get to choose whether or not to live with that person. And now he gets to pick his housemates and gets to form a relationship that continues beyond when they live with him. He still gets to catch up with former housemates for a burger and a beer. And those social relationships are really important.
In Warren's home, he is able to stay if there's an unsolvable dispute. In other words, if there's a housemate there and they're at odds and it's not working, Warren stays. It's his home. And I can set for him, we can set values and non-negotiables about what happens in his home. In a group home, group trumps all. It doesn't matter what personal desires or wishes or values you have, it just trumps all.
So one challenge in helping Mike find his own home to begin with, from a sibling's perspective, was encouraging my parents to try the idea and see that it could be possible. And we call it Team Mike. This is our sign for Mike and all the people around. And we had lots of different people around my parents, encouraging them to see how the idea was possible.
The fear of letting go as a parent, the fear of how he would be received in the community. My parents were very much against him moving into his own home, so we had that issue as well.
So my advice would be that people are never ready to move out of home until they've moved out of home. It's actually moving out that gets you where you learn all the skills. That's the same for everybody. And you never move into the perfect situation either. It grows and evolves over time.
And regardless of how protective you want to be, you've got to let them get out and work their own way in the world, and let them make that little mistake. Not that Alex has made anything dramatic, just little things really, and you'll be surprised how they can cope with the right sort of people around them.
Do it early. Don't let it go on, or else you could be 40 years old and they'll still be there.
I think it's important to set your standards and your values first, and to be confident in your expectations.
Well, in Cameron's own words, he told us not long after he moved into his own home, just do it. Just do it. Plan it, get the assistance required, but it is very possible. With the right level of support, anyone can live in their own home.
Graphic text. We also interviewed people with developmental disabilities about home. Please watch our series, Our Views Matter, www.talksthatmatter.net/Our Views Matter. Logos, Talks That Matter. Closing slide, graphic text. With thanks to Anita O'Brien, Fiona Reid, Graham Pate, Jane Raymond, Maggie Skinner, Peter Holmes, Justine Hall. This video was made possible with the support of an Information and Capacity Building grant through the Department of Social Services. Produced by Belonging Matters. Belonging Matters makes every effort to provide accurate and up-to-date material. However, information is subject to change and our materials for reference only. This video was produced on the land of the Wurundjeri, Wurrung and Bunurong peoples of the East Kulin Nation. Logos, Belonging Matters and TalksThatMatter.net.